What if I told you that the person who flatters you most might be loosening the very bolts that hold your life together? Picture a merchant on the ancient Appian Way, purse heavy with coins from a day's trade. A traveler strolls beside him, praising his business acumen, complimenting the cut of his cloak, even lamenting the dust that dirties such fine boots. The merchant, warmed by admiration, never notices the traveler's nimble fingers teasing loose the coin string. Moments later, fortune has fled on silent feet. Most of us fancy ourselves too modern, too shrewd to fall for such primitive trickery, yet deceptive individuals still prosper. Only now their stage is the conference room, the dating app, the glow of a family dinner. They study your hopes with the same avarice a thief studies a coin purse, and by the time you sense the tug, trust is already spilling into the dust. We live in an age that conflates openness with virtue. Be authentic, urge the self-help banners, as though candor were always saintly and suspicion always a failing. But Marcus Aurelius, enthroned amid courtiers who bowed with rehearsed devotion, wrote that the wise man should peer beneath the smile for the motive that powers it. Stoicism counsels neither paranoia nor naivety. It recommends disciplined discernment, seeing people not as devils to be feared, nor angels to be worshipped, but as complex actors whose deeds, not declarations, reveal alignment with virtue. By the end of our journey, you will recognize 8 warning signs that mark the path of deception, like faint blood tracks on fresh snow. You will learn practices, honed across centuries of philosophy and tested in modern behavioral research, to keep your judgment unclouded and your freedom intact. Why trust my compass? I have watched dynasties of deceit rise and crumble in arenas commercial, romantic, and political. I once lost a fortune to a partner who promised that risk was merely an illusion created by cowards. I once watched a childhood friend weave lies so artful, even his mirror could not tell them apart from truth, until the story collapsed and buried him. In each calamity, I harvested a principle, tempered it in reflection, and filed it to a keen edge. What I offer now is not textbook psychology, but fieldcraft, the quiet habits that separate the stoic sentinel from the sleepwalker. Our expedition will unfold in 3 marches. This first leg dismantles 3 primary facades: the shifting mask of excessive charm, the convenient fog of vagueness, and the slipperiness of shifting narratives. In the next part, we will tread deeper into subtler terrain where blame transference, selective morality, and emotional engineering lurk. The final stretch will reveal the last 2 signs, then furnish a daily regimen. Simple, repeatable, forged to keep the senses sharp long after this lecture ends. Gather your cloak, adjust the strap of your satchel, and step onto the road. Deception hunts best in darkness. We shall meet it with torches blazing. Sign 1. A charm that overheats the room. There is admiration that feels like morning sun. Gentle warmth that clarifies contours without blinding the eyes. Then there is admiration that scorches like desert noon, dazzling so brightly that shadows vanish, leaving no place for doubt to rest. The deceptive individual often arrives swathed in this second light. Seneca warned that sudden friendship is a wine that intoxicates before one tastes its bitterness. Modern neurology concurs. Lavish praise floods the limbic system with dopamine, dulling prefrontal circuits charged with critical evaluation. Once intoxicated, we grant favors we would otherwise weigh, disclose confidences we would normally guard, defend beliefs we scarcely examined. How does the Stoic repel this glamour without lapsing into cynicism? by erecting an interior delay. When flattery lands, pause. 3 silent breaths will do, and translate every compliment into neutral observation. "You have unparalleled insight" becomes "he says he values my insight." Observe whether actions corroborate the sentiment. Does the charmer seek your counsel when silent effort is required, or only parade your wisdom when an audience ensures reflected glory? Buddhism adds a useful lens. Practice equanimity meditation after encounters heavy with praise, letting the mind settle until compliments and criticisms feel like ripples across the same pond. Over weeks, you will notice that authentic respect speaks with an even tone, patient for reciprocity. Manipulative charm races ahead, anxious to hook before the calm of discernment descends. Sign 2. Strategic vagueness and the mirage of specificity. Listen closely when someone recounts their exploits. Deceivers favor a varnish of impressive generalities. Grand numbers without provenance, unnamed authorities, locations painted in broad strokes. Vagueness is their cloak. Your unasked questions are the darkness that completes the disguise. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Say what you mean plainly or remain silent," a maxim he applied even to his own imperial edicts. In contrast, the deceptive person drifts in and out of clarity, offering just enough detail to lull inquiry, then veering into fog when pressed. Ask for dates, they provide decades. Ask for sources, they supply many experts. Ask for commitments, they promise enthusiasm. To counter, wield the Stoic tool of precise interrogation. Not an inquisition, simply the art of tethering claims to concrete stakes. If a colleague boasts that investors are lining up, request a concise list of names and decision timelines. If a suitor mentions meaningful past relationships, invite a reflection on what qualities they valued and how they nurtured them. Honest partners will either furnish specifics or welcome the chance to clarify. Deceivers will bristle, sidestep, or shower fresh abstractions in the hope you tire. The moment you feel guilty for seeking clarity, recall Epictetus. He who would learn must question, and he who would teach must welcome it. Vagueness is a veil they cannot maintain if you refuse to supply the darkness behind it. Sign 3. Narratives that shift like sand. A river may bend, but its current flows in coherent direction. A liar's story, however, eddies unpredictably. Details mutate, timelines blur, motives rearrange to fit the audience like quicksilver conforming to any vessel. Cognitive research on memory tells us that honest recollection deteriorates gradually, but preserves core structure. Fabricated tales expand with improvisational flair, each retelling optimized for social advantage. Seneca compared habitual liars to painters who forget the design of the mural halfway through, and substitute new figures until the wall becomes discordant mosaic. When you suspect shifting narrative, practice temporal anchoring. After hearing a story, summarize it aloud, inserting key milestones. So, last June you left the firm, and by September you launched the startup with 2 partners, correct? Then revisit the account days or weeks later. Consistency breeds confidence. Divergence invites scrutiny. Keep brief written notes if the stakes warrant. Deceivers count on conversational amnesia. The Stoic, however, treats attention as a moral duty. By maintaining a quiet ledger of claims and dates, you build an empirical map that outlives rhetorical smoke. Pause here. Linger on the terrain already crossed. Charm, vagueness, and mutating tale. Each is an invitation to slumber beneath a lullaby. Your defense is deliberate wakefulness. the disciplined habit of turning sensation into observation, observation into question, question into weighted evidence. Practice tonight. Recall one recent interaction suffused with praise, one dotted with soft focus grandeur, one stitched together by a story too convenient. Run them through the filters just learned. Note what clarity emerges. At dawn, we assemble for the second march, where the deceptions grow subtler. The artful deflection of blame, the chameleon ethics calibrated to context, and the emotional lever pulled to make you dance to another's tune. Sharpen the lamp of awareness. The path ahead winds through shadowed valleys where vigilance alone preserves liberty. Dawn's first pale ribbon has scarcely unspooled across the horizon when the next breed of deceiver slips from the shadows. Unlike the brazen flatterer or the wandering storyteller, this one prefers subtler arts. Blame that glides from his hands like oil from marble, ethics that tilt with the room's geometry, and emotional currents strong enough to drag an unwary heart beneath the surface. You will meet him in board meetings and living rooms, on social feeds and candle-lit dates. He may even stare back from the mirror on days you surrender discipline. Let us expose his craft. Sign 4. The acrobat of blame. Watch how a river splits around a boulder. The water's skin is unbroken while the rock stands strangely dry. So it is with deceptive individuals and responsibility. When deadlines collapse, they applaud your heroic effort, yet lament external obstacles. When criticism arrives, they dodge by invoking misunderstood intentions or conspiratorial colleagues. Marcus Aurelius noted that the just man blames himself for his own acts and the universe for nothing. To detect blame acrobats, track pronouns. Celebrations swarm with I. Disasters drown in they or you. Counter with the Stoic mirror test. At the end of any joint project, silently ask, which errors am I willing to own aloud? Then observe whether your counterpart volunteers reciprocation without prompting. If he pirouettes into explanation before acceptance, mark the pattern. Cognitive research shows that habitual externalizers reduce learning loop plasticity. Their mistakes repeat because they never land in the head. Refuse to join the charade. State your share of fault plainly. Pause and let silence challenge him to match the candor. Where silence lingers, deception festers. Sign 5. Morality on a dimmer switch, deceivers favor ethics that brighten or fade with convenience. In private, they disparage a colleague. In public, they praise her as indispensable. They denounce corruption until a bribe advances their cause. Seneca likened such men to stage actors swapping masks mid-scene, convincing only if the audience squints. Modern social psychology labels the habit moral licensing. Past virtue becomes a coupon for future vice. To guard against the dimmer switch, practice contextual cross-checks. When someone espouses a principle, say transparency, recall or gently query how they applied it under pressure. Did they disclose setbacks to investors? Do they reveal fees in small contracts? Consistency across settings is the gold hallmark. Inconsistency flickers like counterfeit foil. Strengthen your own alloy by drafting a personal code, 4 or 5 non-negotiables, and rehearse them in low-stake moments so muscle memory holds when tension climbs. Consistent virtue repels the adaptable deceiver. He finds no Velcro in a seamless surface. Sign 6. Emotional ventriloquism. Picture a puppeteer who speaks into a doll so deftly you forget the hands beneath. Emotional ventriloquists plant feelings in you: guilt, urgency, unearned devotion. Then steer those feelings toward their private ends. A sales director burdens you with visions of team disappointment if you decline overtime. A lover recounts tragic childhood snippets precisely when you question commitment. Epictetus warned that impressions arrive unbidden, but we alone lend assent. The manipulator's gift is to smuggle assent past the gate disguised as empathy. Equip yourself with sensation labeling. When a surge rises, pity, dread, sudden loyalty, name it internally, here is urgent sympathy. Link it to the triggering phrase and ask, does the requested action match my principles if the feeling were absent? Neuroscientists find that verbal labeling recruits prefrontal oversight, reducing limbic hijack. If doubt persists, invoke the 48-hour rule. Postpone major concessions for 2 dawn cycles. Genuine partners respect the interval. Deceivers brand it betrayal. Their haste unmasks their hunger. Pause at this midpoint and inventory your daily encounters. Who among them reenacts river water blame, chameleon ethics, or puppeteer passion? More crucial, when have you yourself waded into those shallows? Awareness, not accusation, makes the ground solid. In our concluding march, we will confront the final 2 signs: grandiosity that corrodes reality and secrecy that breeds rot. And then forge a regimen to keep doorposts linteled against deceit, long after this lesson recedes into memory. Rest, but keep one eye open. The night is brief, and the trickster loves the hour before dawn. The ridge ahead is steep, the air thin, yet press on. Beyond it lies the brightest vantage. From this height you will survey every masquerade the deceiver deploys, and the valley below will no longer conceal ambush. 2 final signs remain. One thunders like a drum, the other whispers like mold beneath floorboards. Now, some exciting news. Our channel now offers a members club. By joining it, you'll unlock exclusive benefits, deeper content dives, and personal insights. Join us on this journey, and let's build a meaningful life together. And I also humbly ask you to leave a comment, as it helps my channel immensely. If you do not know what to comment, just write better every day, so I know you reached this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also, I've linked some books on Stoicism that helped me become the man I am today, and will also help you achieve a Stoic mindset sign. 7. The gravity well of grandiosity. Stand near a massive planet and feel its pull distort orbit. So too does the deceiver's overinflated self-myth bend reality around him. Resumes swell, anecdotes enlarge, future achievements glisten like mirages always one horizon ahead. Grandiosity is more than ego. It is a smokescreen concealing incompetence or ill intent. Marcus Aurelius cautioned himself daily, "Let not the breath of adulation inflate thee." Observe the inverse. The more a person requires constant spotlight, the darker the corners he hopes you'll ignore. Deploy the humbling question: what concrete steps made that success possible? The truly skilled relish granularity, failed prototypes, mentor advice, budget constraints. The grandiose glosses over scaffolding, for he never climbed. He simply declared himself atop. Pair this with micro-verification. A single phone call to a referenced collaborator, a glance at archival data. Reality's texture resists fabrication. Pull one thread and the costume unravels. Sign 8. Opaque compartments and the cult of privacy. Every soul needs a private sanctum, but when every drawer is locked and every key missing, suspicion is warranted. Deceivers quarantine portions of life where scrutiny would reveal contradiction. Secret finances, unexplained absences, phones that flip face down at your approach. Stoicism applauds modest reserve, yet Seneca notes, "He who hides all hides foul intent." Transparency where trust is requisite marks integrity. Pervasive opacity signals rot. Counter with reciprocal disclosure. Offer a relevant slice of your own data. Salary range in a business partnership, personal schedule in a relationship, and invite parity. The honest reciprocate naturally. The deceptive bristle, deflect, or brand your request an invasion. Maintain calm insistence. Mutual clarity safeguards us both. If walls remain, adjust expectations or disengage. The hidden chamber is often the vault of looming crisis. The sentinel's regimen, guarding the gates. Everyday morning calibration. On waking, recite the 8 signs aloud and pick one to spotlight during the day. This primes the reticular system to notice subtle cues without obsessive suspicion. Dialogic note-taking. After significant conversations, jot a 3-line summary, main claims, emotional tone, and any follow-up promised. The log becomes a map. Shifting stories and missed commitments stand out like detours against plotted routes. Weekly consistency audit. Choose one colleague, friend, or partner each week. Reflect. Have their principles, facts, and actions aligned across contexts. Praise congruence openly. Query dissonance kindly. Consistency celebrated grows stronger. Inconsistency illuminated cannot hide. Fortnightly silence fast spend. A half-day consuming no opinions. Social media, news punditry, gossip. Absence of external spin recalibrates your internal compass. You return hearing exaggeration as static, not song. Monthly cross-reference. Verify one significant claim from your circle, professionally through documentation, personally through mutual acquaintances. Make the ritual known. It encourages a culture where truth is expected, not optional. Seasonal humility retreat. At equinox or solstice, list your own past year's exaggerations, evasions, or blame shifts. Repent in action. Correct the record, apologize where needed, implement safeguards. A sentinel who polices only others soon nods asleep at his own post. Closing exhortation. 8 signs now glow like lanterns in your memory. Charm too hot, vagueness too thick, stories too fluid, blame too slippery, morals too flexible, emotions too engineered, ego too swollen, secrecy too dense. They will appear singly or in cunning clusters. Greet each not with paranoia, but with that stoic blend of curiosity and courage. A mind that observes without swallowing, a heart that decides without haste. And should you discover one quiet evening that some corner of your own conduct twitches beneath these lanterns' light, take heart. Deception's first victim is always the deceiver. By seeing the twitch, you gain the power to still it. Align word with deed, deed with principle, principle with reason, and the gravity well collapses to a harmless pebble. Walk on, lantern raised high, and those who value truth will fall into step beside you, while deceivers, like thieves on the Appian Way, slink back into the dusk, their nimble fingers itching for purses no longer within reach. You may think the summit reached once the 8 lanterns burn bright, but deception is a clever climber. It follows, seeking any ledge your attention neglects. The ancient merchant on the Appian Way could at least measure threats by eyesight. Today, you barter trust across invisible wires, handshake by pixel and promise by push notification. In such terrain, the old warning signs still work, yet they must be sharpened for speeds the Stoics never dreamed. Sit once more by the coals. Let their glow temper our tools for the long descent, for the journey home is where most travelers stumble. digital mirage and the algorithm of flattery. A century ago, charmers needed a warm smile and practiced compliment. Now, they outsource the introduction to curated feeds that flatter your taste with eerie precision. When a stranger echoes your niche podcast preference within 5 messages, suspect not coincidence, but data mining. The Stoic response is proheresis, the guarded choice. Before you delight that someone finally gets me, trace the breadcrumb. How public is that hobby? What surveys, likes, or comments divulged it? By naming the path of information, you reclaim agency and deflate the awe upon which phishing thrives. Create the habit of digital reverse lookup. Screenshot glowing testimonials. Run a quick image search for recycled stock faces. Paste emotive emails into quotation marks and scan for template scams. Such checks require minutes, less than it takes to re-earn a fortune lost to romance fraud. Epictetus would nod. Distrust the impression until tested. Technology merely multiplies impressions. Our duty to test scales equally. Echo chamber ethics and tribal deception grandiosity once announced itself from marble steps. Now it hides inside shared outrage. A figure amplifies group grievances until followers crown him oracle. Never mind the contradictions buried under edits and deletes. Watch for micro-cult cues, language policing, meme litmus tests, loyalty oaths disguised as hashtags. Seneca's prescription remains. Examine whether the supposed leader obeys the same rules he proclaims. Does she apologize with the same fervor she condemns others? Does he fact-check allies as sternly as opponents? In tribes where idle critique is taboo, deception mushrooms in the compost of unchecked admiration. Defend yourself with the Steelman ritual. Each time a charismatic voice lambasts a foe, articulate the strongest version of the foe's case before choosing sides. If your tribe boos the exercise, you have found a garden where weeds are cherished above fruit. Withdraw, prune, or risk being fed thorns as nourishment. Self-deception, the final masquerade. Perhaps you have followed diligently. You note inconsistencies, resist emotional ventriloquism, demand transparency. Yet one actor remains ever on stage, you. The human mind excels at forging flattering stories that spare ego discomfort. You may condemn blame acrobats while quietly blaming fatigue for missed promises. You may decry dimmer switch morals while giving yourself night passes for minor lapses. Marcus Aurelius flogged his own self-story nightly, calling himself to docket like any suspect. He understood that a guard who never frisked himself would one day carry contraband across the very threshold he swore to secure. Twice a month, practice the mirror deposition. Stand before literal glass or the blank stare of a turned-off screen and state, aloud, one recent justification you offered. I snapped because they provoked me. Then rephrase it as a stranger's report. He snapped though provocation was mild. Hearing your alibi in third person melts sentimentality. Reason weighs it as evidence. If guilt survives scrutiny, draft restitution. Apology, correction, safeguard. Freedom from external deceivers means little if an internal one dictates the verdict. Re-earned trust and the architecture of repair. What then of connections frayed by unveiled deceit, whether theirs or yours? Stoicism counsels neither cold exile nor naive restoration, but calibrated re-engagement. Trust, like bone, strengthens at the fracture line when knitted with proper care. Map 4 rungs: admission, restitution, consistency, resilience. 1. Admission must be volitional and specific. Mistakes were made is vapor. I concealed the budget overrun is concrete. 2. restitution repays measurable loss: money, labor, reputation. Where repayment is impossible, symbolic service marks intent. Third, consistency demands time-stamped logs of kept promises, weekly updates, shared accounts, open calendars. Transparency sustained becomes new default. 4. Resilience is proven only when pressure returns. Late invoices, tempting shortcuts, ego wounds. If the renewed trust bends yet holds, the lattice surpasses original strength. If it splinters, accept the verdict and recalibrate distance. Offer this ladder to those who wrong you. Climb it yourself when roles reverse. Many will refuse the ascent. Deception often prefers the valley's fog, but those who climb become comrades tested by flame. Leadership without smoke and mirrors. Should you steer a team, family, or community, remember that vigilance scales poorly if concentrated in one sentinel. Teach these 8 signs openly. Commend subordinates who flag inconsistencies, even in your directives. Rotate devil's advocate roles in meetings. Budget hours for postmortems where blame acrobatics are impossible, because every participant must list their own errors first. A culture of shared candor weathers manipulative storms better than any lone gatekeeper. The yearly purge and renewal. At the close of each year, follow the ancient Roman tradition of februa, purification. Review journals, contracts, message threads. Archive those that pass muster. Confront those that itch with unease. Does a collaborator persistently dodge specifics? Has a subtle ventriloquist chipped at your priorities? Decide. Tighten boundaries. Initiate frank dialogue or sever ties. Burn, figuratively or safely literal, the clutter of half-truths. Notes whose authorship you doubt. Souvenirs tied to false promises. Ritualizing the purge trains the mind to view honesty not as static possession, but as orchard requiring winter pruning for spring fruit. Final vigil at the crossroads. Imagine it is some chill evening years hence. A youthful traveler hurries toward you on a lamplit road, eyes bright with plans, purse unguarded. You, now seasoned, recognize the telltale cadence of a passerby, whose flattery scorches, whose story mutates, whose pockets hide stones for blame. Will you merely smile and let the traveler learn by loss, as you once did? Or will you share the lantern you carry, these 8 signs, this discipline of examined trust? That choice charts the final measure of your freedom, the ability not only to defend, but to illuminate. If you choose silence, be sure it springs from wisdom, not fatigue. But if you speak, speak without smugness. For every sentinel began as a target, every sage as a believer, every unfooled mind as once deceived heart. Offer the lessons the world once charged you dearly to learn, and watch deception's hunting grounds shrink by the radius of one more vigilant soul. Thus the map is complete. Charm unchecked, vagueness cloaked, stories shifting, blame escaping, morals dimming, emotions puppeteered, egos ballooning, secrets congealing. Now joined by digital mirages, tribal echoes, and self-spun veils. Keep the lamp trimmed, refill its oil with daily notes, monthly mirrors, yearly purges. And when dusk gathers on trails yet untrod, lift the flame high. For though deceit prowls eternal, its eyes, like any creature's, shrink from steady light. And in that radiance the free spirit walks unmolested, purse sealed, conscience clear, stride sure toward whatever horizon duty and desire together call good. Now, if any part of this message has been helpful to you, leave us your like and comment, helping the algorithm recommend it to someone who needs it at this time. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos, And if you look through the videos we've already uploaded, you're sure to find something to take with you. Have a good day.